It's Astrology Roast. I think it needs to sound like a shitty intro, like a funny shitty intro.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another jam-packed episode of your favourite regular podcast, Astrology Roast. My name's Karen and I'll be one of your hosts today.
And my name is Itai and I'm going to be the other host for today.
And we're going to have a bit of a chat today about the moon and how that manifests in people's lives. But before doing that, we thought we'd whip around the world and see what's happening in the world, in the political system, and how astrology is related to that. So, Ty, has anything popped up for you?
Definitely. Well, I don't know if political is the right term for that, but there are rumors that Britney Spears is releasing a new single in the next month. Now, what's interesting about it is that Christina Aguilera just released, she is releasing a new album. And I think that, well, they're both Sagittarius, which can explain their rough patches that they both had in their lives, one more than the other. But I think it's
Which
really...
one? I'm just like, that's not clear to me.
Well, I think it's definitely Britney. Her most famous public humiliation was her hitting paparazzi with an umbrella while she's shaved her head. And I think Christina's most humiliating moment was when her fake tan... Well, becoming irrelevant. Some would say she was always irrelevant, but when her fake tan was dripping out of her, through her thighs when she was performing I Will Still Love You in a Whitney Houston tribute show.
Oh, that's my biggest fear at any event or wedding, is that might happen to me.
I know, but you go to the best fake tan people in Melbourne.
Yeah, thank you, Susie Spray Tans. You keep me young.
Shout out. Well, I'm just going to finish this point about Britney and Christina because I think that they're both Sagittarius. They're both a great example for Sagittarius. But the thing to me, and I think a lot of people that are around our age miss the 90s and we love the 90s. And I think the fact that they're both coming now with new music at the same time is a chance for all of us to be that kid again. So all I need to do is to become religious again, go back to the closet and gain 20 extra kilos. And I'm just back to my childhood with Britney and Christina, burning the charts.
Wish I'd known you then.
Oh.
I just wish.
Well, that boy still lives inside of me.
Yeah.
What else happened in the world that we can point out? I think, well, we all know that Trump, our favorite Gemini...
Shout out!
Yeah. He's not sponsoring this show, but he's definitely a part of our show. He moved the American embassy to Jerusalem in Israel. And in response, Israel is going to name one of the new train stations after him. It's going to be named Trump. And I think it's the greatest honor for a Gemini because it's so random to have a train station named after you. Such a compliment.
Yeah, and I just feel like he's the epitome of a Gemini. He has barged into office and he is chopping and changing every second. And, he'll be so pleased that something's named after him. But when World War III breaks out due to his behavior, that's going to be obliterated and he won't even care as well.
He won't care. He'll just be like, I have a train station named after me.
Yeah, I had a train station.
You might have heard that there is an Ebola outbreak in Congo in Africa. And some people are nervous that it's going to get to the US, obviously, because if people die in Africa, it's fine. But the second it gets to the US, it's really important. And I was thinking, if Ebola had a star sign, what star sign would it be? And I want to ask you that question. I think it's pretty obvious.
I think it would be Leo.
Why Leo?
Because Leo just wants to infect everyone with their gregarious, charming, self-obsessed personality. So Ebola's just getting under and into people's bodies and just moving around.
Definitely. I feel like Leo is it just want to live inside of everyone until it consumes them. So I think definitely Ebola would be a Leo.
Yeah. And I think another thing that's happened this week in the Australian context would be Barnaby Joyce, so former national leader who's been whinging and moaning for the last couple of months that woe is me, the media's being really unfair to me. Basically, he had an affair with a younger woman, has had a child born to her, and he's been really upset. Oh, everyone's covering this, and the media's not being fair to me, and I'm a dude with a hat, and I need to be respected with my hat, and my kid, and my woman's not respected, and she's not respecting my hat. And now, so he's been whinging about that, and then also this week he has now sold his story to Women's Day for like $200,000, saying that, it was the only way to get his story out and to be honest to himself. So me and Ty had a bit of a look, what star sign's Barnaby Joyce, and he's like an Aries, which I don't understand how that fits with him, because he is very childish, he's very impulsive, he's quite self-obsessed, and he's quite very competitive. So it didn't surprise me. And the hat, I don't know what it is, but like having this giant stupid hat. And
it is
I'm
known
sorry
in astrology.
to the farmers out there, because I respect farmers, but
it is known in astrology that every star sign has an area in their body that relates to them, and it is the head for Aries, the horns. So maybe the hat is I don't know, maybe he feels safer when he wears his hat. It's not an easy world for white men today, so he needs this hat. I also heard that their DNA, they're testing the water in the Loch Ness lake to check if there's any DNA that is different to anything that was ever like tested, to see if the monster, the Loch Ness monster is real. And I was so curious to know what star sign this monster is, because it is a weird monster. Usually we imagine monsters as like these scary, showing off kind of things that come out of your bed, or like they seeking us. And that monster is like just chilling in this lake. Like few people saw her, others never. And then she's like, I think it has to be, and I know some people might disagree, it is a Cancer.
I was literally going to say the same thing. This enormous water-based creature that sometimes comes out, sometimes does it. It's like, it's a Saturday night, but I really feel comfortable in
my lake. Like, also, who would live in a lake?
And then the Loch Ness monster probably gets pissed off when no one visits the lake. Like, you bitch, you didn't come to my lake. I've been here for years and you haven't come to my lake. Like, sometimes I come out, but sometimes I don't want to come out. I'm a Loch Ness monster. Exactly. I need to be in the water.
And I feel like she's just in the lake, literally, because she got offended by someone, and she's just deep down there in the lake.
Lake territory.
And from one monster to another, I went to see a school production, this musical, Beauty and the Beast. And I think that every woke teenager these days know that Beauty and the Beast is basically a story about an abusive relationship that Disney was trying to convince all of us to be in. And it worked.
Wow.
At least for me.
I think the penny just dropped for me of my whole life.
Oh, well.
I didn't realize.
It is. And I know it's a shock when you discover that.
Wow, so they're like, but she loves him.
She loves him and he loves her. That's why he's violent. That's why he shows he really loves her.
Yeah.
I think it reminds me when one of my friend was with a guy that did a lot of crazy things, and she was telling me about it, and I was obviously supporting her. But then her other best friend told her, "Well, he loves you so much. Look what he's doing for you."
True. He would die for you. He loves you.
He loves you. He would kill you and then he will die for you. He loves you that much. And I think that the Beast is also obviously an amazing example. Like, he loves her so much, so he locks her up in the castle, but then he gives her all these nice little gestures.
Yeah.
But I was more thinking about Belle, because what star sign would do that? What star sign would fall in love with their captor? Is that a word?
Yeah, captor.
But also she is strong, and she has a vision, and she also speaks to to cutlery, and she speaks to the closet. We don't really know that they all really spoke back to her. It's her perception.
So that whole time she was speaking to the cutlery was in her mind?
I think, yeah. That's my theory.
How was this presented in a high school musical context?
Oh.
The themes and narratives of kind of codependent unhealthy relationships and speaking to cutlery and closets.
Well, in the show, they didn't really tackle my theory of the fact that Belle was hallucinating the whole thing, which makes her a Pisces.
Because she was hysterical. Of course she was hallucinating. She was making it.
Well, she is a woman after all, and we need to remember that, even though she knows how to read, and she's the only girl in town that does. But my point is that Belle must be a Pisces, and I was also obviously thinking what star sign would go well with the Pisces, which is the beast. And I couldn't help but making the decision that the beast was a Taurus, because his punishment was all about beauty and pleasure, and Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and we know how much they love their food and their looks, and they're known to be one of the most good-looking signs.
And he looked so nice in his suit. Beast in his suit.
Yeah.
So lovely. Now, speaking of beasts and hysterical women, we thought that this episode, it would be great to have an exploration of the moon. And I don't know if any of you out there felt this most recent full moon, but I know I sure as hell did, and I've been 2 hours late to work every single day this week. But we thought it'd be great to give you a bit more information about what the moon represents in astrology, the full moon and the new moon, and how that will give you a bit more information about how you feel your emotions.
People talk about the moon so much, and even when you call someone a lunatic, it comes from luna, which means moon in Latin, and it's it's such a big part of our language and our references. Werewolves, and in full moon nights everyone's going crazy, and new moon. So we thought to give you a little bit of the insight. And in astrology, the moon is all about feelings and emotions. One way to look at it is if the sun is I am. The sun is, here I am, look at me, I'm big, I'm in the sky. The moon is, I feel. And I feel, you could see that the moon is revealing itself slowly every month, but then blacking out and not showing anything, just like our emotions. Sometimes they're very visible to us and clear, and sometimes they're very hidden. And as we said in our first episode, you all have your sun sign and your moon sign and your every planet sign. And your moon sign will give you an insight about your feelings and the way you like to nurture and the way you like to be nurtured. So how do we know our moon signs?
Well, and for those who've been listening regularly, thank you to those 3 listeners out there. We love you. The moon sign, to find that out, you do need to know the exact time of birth. So not everyone has the privilege of having their birth certificate or knowing what time they were born. If you do have a bit of spare time and a bit of spare cash, you can contact the hospital where you were born and get that kind of information. It does cost about $20 or $30, but you can access that if your parents don't know what time you were born. But if they do know, then you just hop online, type it all in, and you'll find out where your moon is. So, for example, my moon is in Gemini, and my sun is also in Gemini. So, which is interesting. So, my sun sign represents who I am, but the moon sign, being in Gemini, that's also how I feel emotionally and how I connect with people on an intimate emotional level. And that would be, being in Gemini, it would be around, talking and rationalizing and the intellect and being constantly curious about people and wanting to absorb a lot of information. So that would be a Gemini moon. Itai, now I know that your moon is firmly grounded in Virgo, which is your Achilles heel. And I know there's a lot of shame around that for you. But what does having a moon in Virgo mean? Well,
there is a lot of shame, and I recently found a new family. It's actually a Facebook group called Virgo Moon Support Group, and you have to apply to get into it.
Yeah, because they don't want any haters.
They don't want any haters. I obviously found it at around 3 a.m. on a weeknight when I was not sleeping. Like every Virgo moon was trying to understand myself. Virgo, we know, is an earth sign. Virgo is an earth sign that is all about order and structure and stability and tasks and criticism. Imagine that into your emotions and into the way you perceive.
Into your bedroom.
Into your bedroom completely. That's why, for example, when it comes to hookups, I'm very critical about it. Even though no matter how much I want to do it, I need to convince myself that that it makes sense. Like, oh, that's why usually if I meet someone and it's more of like a hookup vibe,